Welcome to Your Next Level Now with your host, Bob Donnell. As a human behaviorist, Bob has helped people from every walk of life reach their next level, both personally and professionally. Whether a celebrity, professional athlete, or entrepreneur, Bob has helped them align their behavior with their desired result in their life and career. This is Your Next Level Now with Bob Donnell.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Your Next Level Now and Next Level by Association. Guys, we have a treat because this is somebody I've heard about for many years. I'm friends with his brother, and David Bush has been on Your Next Level Now before, so many of you guys might have remembered him. And but it came about that the connection was made. And this gentleman, like I said, I had heard of him for many years. I hadn't had the opportunity to sit down at a private table and have a conversation with him. But man, the story, the history of how he's taken 4 companies and done amazing things. We'll talk about each of those. We'll talk about his background, but we'll also talk about the man he's had to become in the process to get the results that he's getting. And you know, I know that we talk about people who've made it, people who've succeeded, people who've created things, but it's always amazing when you sit down with somebody who has done the hard work, done the experience, created the experience, lived it, and how willing they are to share. I mean, it's just amazing. So, Jeff, welcome to the call.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bob. Excited about this today.
Yeah, me too. You know, let's just, I always say, let's just jump into the deep end. You know, you've made it by what most people's accounts would say. They made it. I mean, you have the toys. I saw you've got some great cars. I love that. But you have, you know, you have your investment properties. You have your other things. You still have businesses that are producing an income for you. And you had an exit strategy on one of them that really most people would be like, that's what I'm ultimately looking for. What would you say was the pivotal moment that you began to see your dreams, see your aspirations begin to come true?
Well, I mean, a couple different times in my life, I built businesses that started making a lot of money, you know, and I remember back in 2005, what was that, 20 years ago? So I was like 32, 33 years old. You know, when my mortgage company, all of a sudden one month it made like $300,000. I was like, oh my God, like this is a lot of money, 300 grand. I mean, you know, pay taxes. I'm probably in the 50% tax bracket, but take home pay 150 for the month. I'm like, I could pay cash for a car. I could go buy, it was just, I remember in my early 30s having that success, those first big months, you know, where, and I had quit a job where I was making 300 grand a year and everybody told me I was crazy. And I'm like, hey, there's other people making $300,000 a month. If they can do it, I can do it, but I can't do it in a job. So I got to leave this job for a $300,000 a year VP of sales with 40 people underneath me that I loved the job. But I remember quitting that job and really nervous about it. And it took from 2000 to 2005. It took about 5 years. And all of a sudden I'm making 300 grand a month. That was the first time it happened, you know, and then, you know, it happened again just a few years ago when I built my advertising agency up and I made $4 million in net profit in 2020. And that was a big year. That was a lot of money, more money than I could have ever imagined making. So I got to experience that twice, you know.
Man, that's incredible. You know, I watched one of your videos on YouTube. Guys, check him out on video under Grow My Profit, right? Grow My Profit.
Yeah, Grow My Profit's the new business entity venture we're doing now.
Yeah, I think it's cool. So we'll dive into that a little bit. But I was watching some of the videos, and there's this one video where you're talking about the Ferrari that you wanted to buy.
Yeah.
And you had this aspiration to buy it. And then when you got the money to buy it, you didn't buy it because other things became a priority and things. But it didn't mean that you were never going to go back and buy. You went back and bought it. I love the idea of the delayed gratification, which, you know, is a big term, I think, for most people, because most of us aren't very good at it. I'm certainly not. I've been guilty of not being good at that. What made you you've worked so hard to get this car, to get the amount of money to be able to buy it, because your goal was to buy it cash, not finance it, and then you get it, but you don't do it. What allowed you to not fall trap to that?
Fall trap to, you're saying buying it too early? Is that
Yeah,
kind of?
buying it when you had it, even though you had other priorities, and even though for some reason inside of you it wasn't the right time.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, I think it was in my mid 30s when I finally had enough money to go pay cash for a Ferrari. And back then they were only 200 grand. Now they're 300 or whatever, 350. And I just remember, I'm like 35 years old and I'm married and I've got 4 children. And we decided to go buy a house on the water in Canyon Lake and a boat, because I was going to get a lot more enjoyment out of taking my kids wakeboarding and having a second home. And it was a better financial decision. I thought, it's going to go up in value and we'll get a lot more use out of it. I just couldn't imagine at 35 years old taking off every Saturday to go drive the car with, Ferrari Club and ditching my wife and 4 kids. It just wasn't the right timing. It's funny, like as much as it would have been cool to have a Ferrari in my mid 30s, pretty young, it was like family just took priority at that time. Every Saturday we have the boat out and we're wakeboarding and using our lake house. And I bought that instead of the car. It just, my life wasn't ready to go drive every weekend. Now it is.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I just love it because it just shows priorities. It shows perspective. It shows, perseverance, the willingness to delay gratification. I mean, I just think that says a lot about you. So thank you for sharing that. I really do appreciate that. One of the properties you have currently for event spaces, for weddings, all kinds of things like that, right? Mastermind, you have that beautiful place in Lake Elsinore. It's in Elsinore, right?
Yeah, it's on the water in Lake Elsinore.
So I used to live out that way, so I know that area really well. And I saw your video of the building. What's next for you? Because you've had this exit, you've taken some cash, you've bought some investment, you've done some things that you want to do. What's next for you personally?
Well, I think every time you set a big goal and you reach it, I think it's kind of important to set new goals, right? Or you can kind of just fade away and lose, momentum. I know when the guys, finally made it to the moon and came back and they were all depressed and suicidal, and they were like, we'll never let guys go to the moon again without setting goals of what they're going to do when they come back, because they just were lost. It's funny. So I think for me right now, what's the next level? What's some things or a certain lifestyle that I haven't obtained yet? I really didn't sell my company for enough money to own a private jet that's just for me sitting at the airport. So on my cell phone, this is a picture of a Pilatus PC-12. That plane's $6 million. And if I want to pay cash for it, and it's going to cost me $20,000 a month for a pilot, the hangar, insurance, fuel, maintenance. Wow. So that's a pretty big goal, $6 million purchase and a $20,000 a month expense. So that's kind of my next big thing, is I'd really like to have a plane at the airport 10 minutes away, because I've heard it's like a time machine. I can just drive down to the airport and I could be at my Montana house in 2.5 to 3 hours and not go through TSA. And that plane seats 10 people. So I could bring my whole family, 6 plus.
Beautiful.
Yes. And so that's another, physical, financial goal is the next level of lifestyle, is owning your own plane and being able to have more freedom and go places quickly and without a lot of limits. So that's kind of my big financial goal,
Very cool.
So
I really, I have a couple of friends that have private planes. I just think that lifestyle is just really cool.
Yeah. Throw your mountain bikes in the plane and fly to Sedona, Arizona and go mountain bike riding for the day and then fly home. I've got a friend doing that. It's just, like I said, what you can do, how fast you can get there, and carrying things, dirt bikes. You can put dirt bikes on that plane and fly somewhere to Mammoth and ride for the day and be home that night. It's kind of cool.
Sweet. Let's talk about your background. I mean, you've taken, if I'm going off what I believe I remember correctly, 500,000 to 40 million with your ad agency, 0 to 12 million
That
in
was
your
the mortgage company.
mortgage
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
0 to 29 million, sold and hit 40 million the next year in a was that your
That was the direct mail advertising
direct
company.
mail advertising?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you've got your ranch now, 40, it did 40,000 the year before you bought it, and then COVID hit, and you bought it, and then COVID hit.
Yeah. I bought a wedding venue and then COVID hit, right? All the weddings shut down. That was funny.
Oh yeah, funny.
Yeah.
Oh man, but even that year you did 2 million, or you did a million, and now you're looking to 2 million.
Yeah. Yeah. We did $1 million in revenue. It's funny. We kind of took this approach during COVID where if you want to come get married, come get married. Like, we're not going to close. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. So we just kind of took this approach, like, let's just let the bride and groom decide. We're not going to set the rules. And so we stayed open the whole time during COVID. So the 40 wineries in Temecula, they all had liquor licenses.
Yeah.
And ABC, alcohol beverage control, because they had a liquor license, they went and shut them all down and said, you have to close for COVID. So it's kind of funny. We were the only place, one of the few places open through COVID. And some people, we had weddings where everybody was wearing a mask and some no mask. It was kind of just whatever you feel like doing. Maybe you don't want to invite grandma and grandpa to the wedding if they're sick during COVID. It was just, we let people decide. And it was interesting. We did $1 million and did 50 weddings that year when everyone else was shut down. And then everybody else opened and it was like, oh no, we have competition. So we had the 1 year we did 50 weddings and we thought we were going to double to 100. And the second year we did 50 weddings because everyone else opened up. Now we have competition, but now we're tracking 100 weddings for next year. So $20,000 a wedding. It's going to go from $1 million to $2 million. Next year we'll do 2 million.
Okay, so I've got okay. The year before you bought it, it only did 40,000.
They did 5 weddings for $8,000 a piece. So 40 grand in revenue when we bought it. The previous owner had done that for weddings. She got the wedding license and was open for a year or 2 years. And, she was just trying to do enough weddings to pay the property taxes around here.
Right.
And
then the next year with COVID, you do 1 million.
50 weddings. Yep. 20 grand, $1 million.
What did you do differently than what the previous owner was doing to make that big of a turnaround in such a short period of time?
Well, I have like sales and marketing running through my blood. My whole life has been sales and marketing. So I know how to throttle up leads. I'm not afraid to spend money to get leads in the door. So, I think she was getting 50 leads a year. Well, I went out and spent 5 grand and I got 1,000 leads that year. And we closed 5% of the leads turned into a sold wedding. So we sold 50 weddings. And so just turn the leads up and hire a couple salespeople. Don't depend on one part-time family member to be the only salesperson for your business. We went out and hired 2 salespeople and they both sold 25 weddings each. And now it's starting to grow. So I'm big on adding salespeople and throttling up marketing and spending money to make money. You have to grow a business. For me, it's always been about sales and marketing. That's the one thing that I know that built all 4 of my companies almost identically. More salespeople, more marketing, more money. It's like not a success leaves clues. That was a pretty clear one to me. If I have more salespeople and I get more leads in, I'm going to do more revenue. So that's how I built all 4 of my businesses that way.
I love the fact that that you found something that worked, so you stuck with it. You didn't look for the next shiny object. You just said, okay, I rinse and repeat. I know how to do this thing. I also appreciate about that is that you where most people go, I don't want to have any employees. I don't want to have to deal with the headaches. I certainly don't want salespeople. They're just going to lie and lie. They're going to fudge the truth, everything.
Yeah.
What made you so confident that you could not only find the right salespeople, that you could hire the right salespeople, which means you're going to have to put a compensation plan that'll help them achieve what they want to achieve as well. That also that you'll be able to retain them. What were the confidence factors for you?
It's funny for me, the confidence factor came from the fact that I saw other people doing it, and I would meet, I'll give you a great story. I was doing advertising for a big mortgage company called Ditech, and Paul Redden was the owner. Okay. And I remember hearing that this guy was funding 10,000 loans a month. I go, listen, if that guy can do 10,000, I mean, he's a smart guy. He went to USC, he's master's degree in psychology. He's a bright guy, but he ain't that bright. Like I'm not that far away from him. Like if he's a 10, I'm at least a 5, you know. And so I remember thinking if he can do 10,000 loans a month, I could do 100. And if I do 100 loans, I'm going to make $2 or $3 million a year. So I can hit my income goal doing, you know, what was that 1% of what he was doing? And I was pretty good about reading a lot of books, getting around a lot of successful people, watching what they did. And so I just kept seeing the confidence came from, you know, if he had 1,000 salespeople, I could probably put on 100 or 30. I think I ended up with 30 at my mortgage company. So a lot of the confidence just came from watching other people do it and knowing that they weren't that much better. They were smarter, more experienced, but if they could do it, I could do it. There's all these stories of people that came from nothing that became very successful. How'd they all do it? You know, that if they could do it, I could do it, you know, or I could do a portion of it. So that's really where it came from, you know.
Man, you know, and I appreciate that. I think the risk of going out and hiring more people is an aversion that most people, you know, will hide behind. What gave you the guts to do it, even when your friends, like you say, your friends were saying, "Hey, don't do this. Why are you leaving this great job to do something else?" What gave you that ability to walk away from something that was producing already?
I had really big dreams and goals that I had to achieve. I mean, it was not like I'd like to, I want to. It was like I have to. I have to have that Ferrari in the garage. I have to have a multi-million-dollar home paid for cash. I have to do this. It was just a real deep-seated goal, dream that it was just, it had to happen. So if that has to happen, you're forced to get into your outside your comfort zone and do things that are scary and take some risks. Yeah, I was talking to 2 business owners the other day that were doing $1 million a year in sales. They're making 200 grand. They work 4 days a week, take a lot of nice vacations. They're very somewhat successful guys. And there was a guy and a gal that I was in a room with. And I'm like, my business did 20 million in sales and made 4 million bucks. And I was able to sell it and have this amazing lifestyle. Why don't you guys do it? You guys have had these businesses for 5-10 years and you're not doing that well. What holds you back from growing? And they both said the same thing, Jeff. We have 5 employees and we have a lot of problems. If we go to 10 or 20 employees, we're going to double or quadruple the problems. And we just can't imagine being able to go through that. And I thought, wow, you guys actually believe that you have to solve all the problems. So you're not thinking about having a good leadership team, managers to help you solve the problems. If I had to solve all the freaking problems in my business, no way would I have done it. But I found managers, I had 5 managers at each company, and 90% of the problems were solved by them. I only had to solve a couple big ones, and they were a little scary, but it wasn't like every day, every week, every month. I think a lot of entrepreneurs they end up being so controlling. They're trying to think they have to do everything. And that is a problem. They have a hard time delegating, giving people, you know, training up leaders. They want to do it themselves. And maybe that's their whole life. And they just can't get out of their own way. And it was amazing to me hearing 2 of my friends owning companies, very small, that weren't going to go anywhere and they're never going to have big success because they can't get out of their own way, you know?
What a shame, isn't it? And it's so miserable when you know you have a recipe that works and you can help them if they will let you, right? You could breathe the life back into their business, but if they're not willing to absorb it, it's really frustrating when you want to help someone and you can't, or they won't let you. I know. What is, you know, your wife? You had kids. How did your wife play a role in supporting or motivating one or the other, right? You in being able to take those challenges head on?
Well, my wife and I have an interesting relationship in that I got her pregnant in high school. So we had a kid together. She was right out of high school. I was a senior in high school when we had our first kid, and I was pretty poor. So we met pretty poor, and we got together, and then we split up for 5 years and kind of went out and did our own thing for 5 years. We weren't ready to get married. Then we got back together, got married, and had 3 more kids. So we've got kind of an interesting, rare story where most people that have a kid together in high school, if they get married, they end up not staying married.
Right.
Or, you know, if they don't get married, they certainly don't get back together. So that was kind of weird. We had this kind of bond. We've been married 29 years, but had a kid together. I'm
Wow.
52. He just turned 34. My
Wow.
wife's 53. So we just had, but she had to take that roller coaster ride with me, the ups and downs. You know, we had a couple crash landings that
Mm.
were bad. And I remember telling my wife, hey, pack up the house. It's being foreclosed on. Go get all the stuff out of the kids' rooms, all your stuff, and start packing. We got to go. And that was, I'll never forget that. That was horrible going through that. And so she had to go through some really lean times, some extremely rich times. But I tell her, hey, I'm 52. I would say over the last 30 years, it's been like 20 really, 25 good years and maybe 5 bad, and not
Mhm.
all strung together. A couple bad years here, a couple here. So over the whole picture, it's been pretty doggone good, but we hit highs higher than most people hit, but we hit some lows that were a lot lower than most people hit. And you got to
Yeah.
be ready for that in business ownership, taking risks, entrepreneurship. It's not a super easy life. And thank God my wife and I stayed together. And
Yeah.
my mortgage company went down. I remember someone saying, Jeff, every guy I know that was making $1 million to 10 million a year that owned a mortgage company, when that ended, their wives left. And mine didn't, because we had been through that
Love
before.
it.
So that was kind of interesting. I'm blessed in that way, to 29 years married, and.
Yeah. 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 Thank you for sharing that. That's I think that speaks a lot of, again, goes back to speaking volumes about who you are, who your wife is. Um, you know, like you said, we all hit bad times. We all have, even the Bible talks about the rain falls on the just and the unjust. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, how much money you have in the bank, rain falls. So I appreciate you sharing that. If I were to ask, maybe your kids are older now, so if I were to ask her or your kids, what do you think is dad or your husband's greatest superpower? What do you think they would say?
I would say that they would say my dad or my husband's pretty driven and focuses on the result and doesn't let little things get in the way. Driven. I have a lot of drive. I got a lot of energy. I put a lot into it, but I'm very focused. I'm not like the guy that got on his horse and rode off in all directions. I've got a lot of friends like that just can't
Mm.
focus on one thing. They got to have 5 things going. I got ADD like every other entrepreneur, but somehow I was able to focus, right? Like every business owner I know, bright, shiny object this way, that way.
Mm.
It's hard to stay focused, but when you have a dream and a goal and you've decided how you're going to get there, I put a lot of energy into one thing and it took it through from the bottom to the top 4
Mm.
times. I've done that. It's just focus and drive would be a big part. I think that they would agree with that.
Yeah, man, I can appreciate that, and just watching your videos and then knowing your brother as well, I can definitely see that being really characteristic of some of the great things you've accomplished. You have now started a venture, Grow My Profit. I love the name just to begin with right there. It's not like grow my sales. No, grow
Right,
my profit. I want the profit, not just the
right,
sales.
right.
Tells me right there that you're focused on the right thing, in my
Bottom
opinion.
line.
Yeah, that's it. What started that, and what are you gonna do? What are you doing with that?
So I sold my company in April of 2021. They wanted me to stay for 2 years to hit my earnout, but I hit my earnout in 1 year. So I remember calling them. I go, hey, you guys got me on payroll for like $17,000 a month. This is a joke. Can I leave? I mean, I hit my number. I delivered everything I promised you guys. Is it okay if I leave a year early? And they go, yeah. I'm like, they go, when do you want to leave? And I go, I don't know, like next month. They're like, okay. So I packed my stuff like July of last year and left a year early, right? And
Bravo.
so I've been off work for a year, and I've honestly, it's great to be retired, I guess. I mean, I still have the wedding venue. I spend an hour a day, maybe 4 hours a week total on that business because I have a
That's
great.
got what, 10 acres of water of the pond.
It's 40 acres with 5 houses on it, plus the wedding venue. I've got a pond, I've got a horse racing track, I've got 100 animals here. I got all my kids living in houses, and sister-in-law and nieces and nephews
Bravo.
and trailers and workers. And it's quite the, there needs to be a reality show filmed here. I mean, it's crazy with the weddings and all the people. And
Oh, I bet.
so anyways, I manage this property with a lot of help. You know, my wife does a lot, and workers that work here, and her sister's our wedding manager and lives on the property. So like I said, I only spend 4 hours a week on this wedding venue. So I have a lot of time on my hands, and that's not always good. You know, I don't have anything to put my mind to. So I've been off work for a year, and my brother and I, although we're very different, he's my only brother, he's 2 years younger than me. We've always talked about it'd be fun to do something together, but neither one of us, the timing wasn't right, or we just couldn't see it happening. Well, finally, my brother's got a long coaching background and speaking. He's a great speaker and up on stage. And so he's got talents I don't have, and I have some talents he doesn't have. And we're like, let's do something together. So I went out and looked at 20 businesses for sale, and I almost bought a business just to go grow it. Let me buy something, then I'll scale it up and we'll sell it again. And after looking at 20 businesses, I couldn't find anything I liked. So my brother and I decided to start growmyprofit.com. And it's basically like business consulting, but it's consulting for equity. So I don't want to get paid $500 an hour or $2,000 an hour and be trading time for money. I want to get involved with companies and just take a small ownership piece and then help them scale revenue and profit up to the goal. And either, if the business owner makes enough money, they can hire a CEO to run it and they can work 1 day a week, or they want to stay working in the business, keep doing it, but make a lot of money, or have an exit, sell the business. So we'd be along for the ride, and we're not charging any money up front. Just, give us a percentage of your business and let us apply these principles that have worked for me in 4 different businesses, 4 different times, to scale up revenue and profit, and build the team, and and then grow it into either a sale or hire someone to run it so they can have time and money. Usually you have one or the other. It's hard to get both, time and money. So anyways, that's kind of the idea for the business. We just started, got the website up, and now my brother's like, well, let's do, mastermind. So we're going to do a little mastermind. We're going to do some retreats, like business boot camps at a couple of my houses. We might do one in Montana, one on the water, launch the boat, the jet skis, have some fun, get some business owners out for like a weekend and teach these principles, So doing events, doing masterminds, but the real goal is I'd like to have 20 businesses in our portfolio that I own 10 to 50% of, and build that up to like a, $10 million a year income. And maybe we have an exit and sell 10 times multiple, sell for 100 million. I'd like my next exit to be a 9-figure exit instead of 8. I had a nice 8-figure exit. It was enough to pay off houses and cars, put some money in the bank, but to go to the next level, a 9-figure exit, I want to sell a company for $100 million in the next 5 years. That's the big next goal, and that's Grow My Profit's going to do that.
What's it going to take to have an exit like that?
Well, to have an exit like that, I got to generate $10 million in EBITDA, net earnings. 10 times multiples, 100 million. So I always work backwards. Okay, now how do I get $10 million? Well, I get 20 companies that make $2 million, and I get 25% ownership. So my cut would be 10 million, and it's pretty much like straight net profit. So I have kind of the metrics all figured out, but now I got to work backwards even further and say, okay, we've got to go on podcasts like this. We've got to go on YouTube. We've got to generate back to my, I got to scale up my own business again. Here we go. Applying my principles. I'm out hiring salespeople, doing marketing, doing lead gen. We've got to get X amount of leads to get X amount of sales, to get X amount of revenue, to get 10 million in earnings and $100 million exit. So it's all just, it's mapped out on what I need to do. And now it's just about implementing. The hard part is, now that I've been off work for a year, it's hard for me to go work 10 hours a day, because I'm really enjoying driving my Ferrari, riding my jet skis, using my Montana house. We got a new grandbaby. So it's a little bit like, it's a little harder because I don't have to have it.
Yeah.
It's like a want to, not a have to right now. So I'm finding it's a little more difficult to get back into the swing of working and with a new grandbaby and, all the stuff I've got, enjoying life, parents my dad just turned 80. I'm flying up to Montana, at my house in Montana, staying there. That's where they live, spending a little more time with mom and dad. They don't have much longer on this earth. So it's just a little more balance,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can appreciate that, and I'm really happy for you that you have that ability. So, um, and I want to say thank you, because I think a lot of times people get that in silence, and then they just fade off, and sometimes it doesn't work so well for them to fade off. Without a vision, people perish, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I love the fact that what I'm hearing from you is that you're in the pursuit of this still, but not in the pursuit of it to where everything goes away. You have this ability. I love your focus. I love that you have a vision. You're focused on doing it. You're rinsing and repeating things that you already know work. You're not trying to go out and do something different. And then you're applying this to this Grow My Profit business, where you can actually help others do what you've done. What do you think is the biggest challenge for you in doing that now with Grow My Profit?
Well, I think the biggest challenge will be working with smaller businesses, CEOs and business owners that are doing 1 to 3 million in revenue, and maybe they're making 100 to 500 grand a year. I think the biggest challenge will be trying to get them to think bigger and to get on board with this, because they all have, what I'm finding after talking to 10 CEOs over the last 90 days, it's a lot of fear.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of people that are very comfortable. They're making 300 grand a year on a $3 million business.
Yeah.
And they're comfortable. So I don't know, like trying to find people that have bigger goals, that really want to drive revenue and have an exit. Not everybody wants to do that. They like where they're at. So what I'm finding is, I thought everybody wanted to grow from 1 million to 10, 20 million. Not true. Some people are very happy where they're at, and I can't knock that. If you're making 300 grand a year and you have time and that's enough money,
Yeah.
God bless you. That's great, you know? So I think it's going to be a little more difficult than I planned to find the people who really want to take their businesses from 1 to 10 or 20 or 50 million, have a big exit. They're kind of scared of it, and getting them through the fear. So I think it's going to be more coaching and more mentor than I had expected, you know?
Mm-hmm. I'm really big on questions. I think the quality of your life will be determined by the quality of questions you ask. The quality of connections that you make will be determined by the quality of questions you ask. So what questions are you at this stage of the game for you? What questions are you asking for yourself, but maybe also what questions are you asking prospective people for Grow My Profit that help you identify those people? And are those questions that I could ask that would help me identify people that might be a good referral for you?
Well, my brother put together a business assessment on our website, and it's a pretty good little 50 questions. And one of the big questions is, what's your revenue now? And what's your revenue goal for 5 years from now? If they can't answer that one, that's a pretty good sign that we're not going anywhere, or they might not have the motivation to go to that next level. But if they have some goals to grow the business to a certain level, and have you thought of everything we're doing is a 1 to 5 year plan.
Yeah.
Most of these businesses took me about 7 years. 3 of them, well, I'm in my 4th one right now. It took about 7 years to make them big and making a lot of money, where they were really throwing off some huge cash flow to have an amazing lifestyle, or big enough to sell, you know? So yeah, we're kind of looking at a 1 to 5 year plan. So the question is, where do you want to be in 5 years? And for why? For why do you want to be there? You know, what do you have? You know, in the Bible says, you know, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children and his grandchildren. Are you thinking about your grandchildren? Are you thinking about your children? Are you going to give them a bunch of debt when you die? Or are you going to give them a house that's paid for, where maybe they just have to pay the property taxes, you know, and they have a better life than you? And then grandchildren, whew, I just had my first one. That's kind of next level. I don't have a trust.
Congratulations.
Grandkid yet. Yeah. But anyways, so those are some questions as far as, I guess, goals. And, you know, what do you want to do? But I guess more importantly, why? Why do you want to do that? What does that look like if you take your business from making 200 grand a year to 2 million? What is that going to do for you? Why do you want to do that? You know, and because I'm big on physical dreams, pictures. I got to have some physical proof. Or I got a picture of that plane on my cell phone every time I open my phone. And I have a picture of that Ferrari up for, you know, off and on for 30 years. So my friend used to go dream about buying a new Cadillac, and he would go to the Cadillac dealer with a jar, and he'd scoop up the Cadillac air and close the jar, and he had Cadillac smell on his desk. And I thought,
Really?
that's funny. Now that's the
That's
senses.
good.
Like, I look at pictures. I never had the smell one, but that
Right.
Ferrari smells good. Every time I get in that car, there's a distinct Italian leather smell. It's funny.
There he is.
Hasn't gone away,
What about, did you get rid of the Rolls Royce?
No, we've got a beautiful Rolls
That's
Royce.
beautiful. That is a
It's
beautiful car.
Yeah. Yeah. We put about 2,000 miles a year on the Rolls and 2,000 miles a year on the Ferrari. That's how much we're driving it. Maybe like once a week or once every 2 weeks on a trip, go out to Palm Springs, go to LA, Beverly Hills, San Diego. And Saturday morning, I'm taking the Ferrari up to Burbank to West Coast Customs for a big Ferrari event. So we drive them. We're enjoying them. We're putting some miles on them. And now that the kids are all grown, I have the time to go out and do this fun stuff. And signing up for Ferrari Club and meeting 50 people that own Ferraris is just unbelievable. Like, to hear their story, where they came from, what they do, how they live, what vacations they're going on. That's half the fun, it's just the association.
Oh, definitely. When I saw that, I love both of those cars. I'm not a big car guy, but I love and appreciate really nice cars.
Yeah.
But those umbrellas that slide out the door, I was like, what?
Yeah, it's pretty
crazy. Cool. And like you say, in California, you're not using them, but
right.
It's nice to know that they're in case.
Right. Yeah, I've owned a lot of Mercedes.
Me too.
Through the years, and you get in that Rolls Royce and take an hour drive, and you want to throw rocks at the Mercedes. There's no comparison. Now I know why those cars cost $400,000. That car was $400,000 new back in 2016. I think they're up to like 500 grand, and that's the baby. That's the Ghost is the baby Phantom. The Phantom's a couple $100 grand more. You start to realize. I remember the year I made 300 grand working for someone, and I took home 160 grand. I'm like, crap, how am I going to pay cash for a Ferrari? I'm at the top W-2 income, but by the time I pay taxes, I make 160 a year. Cost me 100 grand to run my life. I got a mortgage, and how the hell am I ever going to own a Ferrari cash? Like, have an extra $200,000 laying around. I just couldn't. It just started to compute and tell me this is going to be a little harder than I thought. We're going to have to build something big, and I'm not going to do it as a sales manager, W-2 income. I was already in my late 20s making 300 grand a year. That was a lot of money, W-2 income, even as a VP of sales,
Yeah. Wow.
So I quit my job a year later, the thought that this ain't going to do it. This is not going to hit my goal,
Yeah. And I can appreciate that. I think that a lot of people have been there that didn't take the step that you took. So congratulations on that. Congratulations on all your success. And I can't wait to see what happens with the other businesses that you're going to be helping these people.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, let me just bring on a couple of people ask some questions. Jim, let me introduce you to Jim. Jim and Jeff. Jim lives in Murrieta, so down by you. And Jim is also a leadership expert. He's got a podcast, so he might be a great fit for you guys to have a conversation being down there. So Jim, are you there?
I'm here. Wow, what a conversation. It's very inspirational, sharing everything.
Your camera.
I live like pretty close.
There you are.
It's like Jim's screen kind of got locked up there.
Yeah.
There you go. So Jim, if you're in Murrieta, stop by Hawk Ranch. I'll give you a tour.
Awesome.
Hawk Ranch. Okay.
Thank you.
Cool.
I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, you're cutting in
Ranch,
that.
HOP.
Hawk like the bird,
Yeah.
HAWK ranch.net is our website. And I'm on Washington Avenue, kind of dead ends into my 40-acre property, Old Town Murrieta, if you're familiar with that. But if you come by, I'll give you a tour, show you the wedding venue. And it's kind of a cool, all the animals. If you got kids or grandkids, we do a lot of animal tours here, alpacas and goats and pigs and horses. And it's got 100 animals. So.
Wow. Wow, that'd be cool. Well, Jim, definitely make it out there. You guys connect. I think you guys will have some really good
Thank
conversation.
you.
Flo, come on. And Flo is also my girlfriend, but an amazing entrepreneur, and she has a company called Farm Girl Edibles, Farm Girl jellies, jams, and more, and a really gourmet, high quality, specialty items type of thing. And so, Flo, you have a question?
I was just taking notes, blown away. It was, I don't know if it's that reticular activating system that we were just talking about. And I wrote it down yesterday. This is my must-have life. And when you mentioned this was a deep-seated goal, this was what I had to have. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, all these questions just went, what characteristics do you look for? How did you get to that process of, this is my must have?
I can only tell you that at like age 13, my dad had a body and paint shop and I was painting cars, and these cars would come in. My dad was a car guy, but he made above average middle class income, but these beautiful cars would come in and I would paint them. I'd be restoring the Pantera, the Ferrari, the Porsche. And I watched how bad my dad loved cars, but he couldn't afford one. Right. He made 50,000 a year, above average income in the 70s and 80s. And I was like, Dad, like, how do all these other people afford these badass cars that are coming into our shop and we're working on them and we got to paint them? I don't want to work on these cars anymore. I want to own them. So probably like age 13, the Magnum PI Ferrari, right? In the 80s, everybody knows the 308, good looking guy, Tom Selleck, red with tan. That picture was on my dad's wall. And I'm like, that's going to be my first one right there. Red with tan. And I got that vision and I was like, okay, what do I need to do to accomplish it? Nobody was going to teach me. My dad didn't know. My friends didn't know. They were all broke like me and middle class. And, so I started reading books and listening to audio and finding guys that could teach me, because I had nobody's around to show me, and no millionaire wanted to be around this punk 18-year-old kid. So it's like hard to get around successful people. I was, anyways. So that, I don't know, that vision, goal, dream kind of got established pretty early on, and I just wouldn't let go of it. It was like something I had to do, and maybe I tricked myself into doing all this stuff, because naturally I'd fall back to middle class. But, if you can do that, why not, right? Why not me? All these other people are doing it. They're not that bright,
Right.
Love it. Love it.
Appreciate that. Definitely.
Yeah, thank you. Another real quick one. What is your criteria for the businesses that you're looking at to help grow their profits?
The criteria isn't too strict, as long as we have a business that has good gross margins and that it can scale. Like if somebody has a business where the only way they sell is on Amazon, I'm not the Amazon expert of how to get your product on Amazon and 10x revenue. So certain businesses that are like, if you sell something for $1.99 on Amazon, I might not be able to help. So I think probably 75% of the businesses in the world, I could grow revenue through my 6 steps, right? My 6-step plan, which is very reliant on marketing and salespeople, opening up channels, calling, dialing for dollars, doing marketing, lead generation. I do a lot of digital marketing on Google now. My wedding business, I had to learn all that. So my criteria is really just, we'd like to see a business that's doing $1 million a year in revenue, that makes at least 100 grand net profit. I think our sweet spot's probably 2 to 3 million, because 2 to 3 million in revenue, they got a little team, they have a business, they're shipping out product or a service. But I've done this in business to business and business to consumer and in completely different industries. And I keep laughing. Now I'm in the wedding business. When I got in this business, I knew nothing about it, nothing. Like, how do you do weddings? We got to find caterers and DJs and flowers and wedding coordinators. I had never done it, and my wife either. But when I came in here and go, okay, let's throw some money at marketing, let's get some more salespeople, everything else we'll figure out. The operation's pretty easy, pricing, making sure we made a good margin. if you sell $1 million of the business and you make 10%, you're out of business. I mean, there's no way. So we look at businesses that have good margins. If it costs me $1 to make it, I'm selling it for at least $2, a 50% margin, preferably 60%. All three of my businesses ran on 60% margin. So a lot of profit, which paid for a lot of my mistakes when I screwed up and spent money I shouldn't have, or marketing didn't work. At least when I finally sold some, I made it huge. So high margin businesses that are scalable, that look like multiple channels of revenue, sales channels could help it grow, whether that's online or sales team or television, where the marketing can feed the business, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Complete sense. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Jeff, before I let you go, I just want to bring up a couple of people online. They're loving it, saying sounds amazing. Gal, good friend, Debbie Bettendorf, she has a podcast as well that might be a really good fit. I'll make that introduction. You guys definitely connect. Debbie's a sweetheart, just an amazing woman who's just infectious. I mean, she's just infectious, and we love her to death. So definitely we'll make that connection there. People watching in San Antonio. So we've got some people online watching. I'm going to take this, we're going to edit it, and then, or we're going to clip off the back and front, and then we're going to put it in a private Facebook group. But then we're also going to repopulate it and repurpose it several times throughout the next week so that some other people will get a chance to watch it. But Jeff, you are an inspiration, I tell you, brother. I'm grateful to finally make the connection. I'm grateful for you doing what you've done, for you paying the price you've had to pay to be where you're at, and your wife and your family having to pay the price to be there. I just want you to know that I personally, one man to another, I just want you to know I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, thanks, man. One of these days I'm gonna have to do a podcast on all my failures and how I picked myself up, right? Like I'm not talking about the day I was home crying in my bed, couldn't get out of bed, $5.5 million bankruptcy in 2008, and just, I mean, train wreck, and that's all part of it. And some people starting businesses and going through that and trying to pick yourself back up and go back and redo it and start over. That's a Jim Rohn used to say, well, what are you really good at, Jim? And he said, I'm really good at starting over. And I can relate, because I had to start over. There's twice where I fell off a cliff. It was bad, and sitting, so that's, we could talk about failures. They go right alongside of successes, more success than failure, but you got to pick yourself up after falling off. And a lot of people, once they get kicked, they're down for the count. They're not going to get back up. That was hard. That took some grit and some good friends and pastors and probably God to pick me up and give me the strength to go take another run at this, so.
Amen. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I value that. That's it's not everyone that can get kicked down and get back up. So I appreciate that about you. How do you want people to reach out to you? How do you, you're going to be a part of our private Facebook group. So look for an invite on that. But then how would you like people to connect with you? Would you like them to email, text, call? What would you like them to do?
Visiting in our website and just putting your name in there, my brother or myself is going to call you and email you. So, growmyprofit.com. You could email me directly, jeff@growmyprofit.com. But I'm going to Italy for kind of another life dream. I'm going for a month. I'm going to be gone the whole month of September. I'm going to visit the Ferrari factory, the Lamborghini factory. I'm taking a cruise to Monaco and Barcelona, hitting 10 cities in Italy. I've never been to Italy, and it's always been a dream. That's like one more, big. So anyways, because I'm going to be gone the whole month of September, you're better off going on the website. So my brother will respond if I'm out. But Jeff at Grow My Profits, my email, the phone number's on there. It rings to my brother and myself, our phone. But going on the website, filling out a form is probably best, so we can communicate.
Love that. We will we'll pass that along. We'll put that in our text when we send that out. So Debbie Bettendorf already put it on the chat session. So thank you, Debbie. Appreciate that. Jeff, again, thank you very much, and have fun in Italy if we don't talk before then. But I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. Great meeting you on Zoom and the whole team.
Likewise.
Thanks.
All right, guys, get out there, make it a great week, and enjoy your next level.
You've been listening to Your Next Level Now with Bob Donnell. To find out more, call us at 949-542-6398. That's 949-542-6398. Or you can find more information on our website at everythingnextlevel.com. That's everythingnextlevel.com.